African analyst. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. So what do you make of this latest situation?
Well, this latest situation, if they do indeed, the government forces indeed, is able to capture the presidential palace, it could hasten, the full capture by the army, by the government army of the whole of Khartoum and its surrounding areas, and also maybe actually hasten, the end of the war.
But given the current situation, do you find it likely that international community, international players rather, would have to intervene to bring the tensions down?
Yes, I mean there have been past interventions, brokered by Saudi Arabia and the US, in Jeddah. That led to the Jeddah Declaration, but that declaration wasn't adhered to. And as we speak now, yesterday, the regional body, the Intergovernmental Authority of Development, IGAD, met in Addis Ababa yesterday to try and hash out some peace talks. The government actually last year or so pulled out, said it wasn't going to be part of that IGAD broker talks. But now, since then, it has stated its intention to rejoin the peace talks. So I believe that international involvement will be possible. And I know that Turkey is also trying to make moves to get involved in brokering some peace.
But of course, when we look at the situation on the ground, what we see is that there's a lack of mediation, especially in the sense that both warring sides are not talking to each other. So how do you think mediators can make that happen?
Well, there's bad blood. I mean, whenever I talk about this war, I always use the word the intransigence. Both sides, General Dagalo, who leads the RSF, and then General Buhan, who leads the government forces, are both very, very intransigent. They have dug their heels in. No one is prepared to give an inch to the other. But I believe that we continue sustain the international efforts. The two sides will be able to. The two sides could be brought to the negotiating table to hammer out some ceasefire. There have been so many ceasefires in the past which have been broken. But I believe that with sustained effort by international bodies, international artists, the two sides could sit down to hammer out a peace deal eventually, not in the very foreseeable
Okay.
future,
Now,
but
Jonathan,
eventually.
of course, as you know, that Khartoum has remained under the control of the RSF since the war erupted. Now that the Sudanese army is able to capture the presidential palace, is that perhaps an indication that this war could come to an end?
I wouldn't say the Sudanese government, the army's recapture of the presidential palace or Khartoum would mean an immediate end to the war, but it could precipitate, it could hasten the end, to the war because look, both sides, each side, think that it is stronger than the other, right? And you don't, and everybody would like to go to the negotiating table from a position of strength. So if one side is weakened, right, that will make the peace efforts much easier.
And Jonathan, looking at the sufferings of the Sudanese people, I mean, of course, this war has also resulted in a major humanitarian crisis for
Mhm.
Sudan. How do you think the
Mhm.
international community can play a role in help alleviating the pain and sufferings of the Sudanese people?
I always say that I mean the international community actually it's becoming fatigued. There are updates one crisis after the other, and the UN described the humanitarian crisis as currently the worst, in the world. Okay, and I believe that the UN and other bodies need to step up its efforts. And again, the two sides must also open some humanitarian corridors, for aid to come in to help, ameliorate the plight of those caught, or those who have become victims, of the war.
Jonathan Offei-Ansah, thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. Appreciate your taking out the time.
Thanks for having me.